I awoke last night for reasons I could not explain. There was no sound. My roommates were still out of town. I wasn't thirsty or hungry. I didn't have to use the bathroom. Some feeling had just compelled me, coaxed my mind out of its slumber. I got out of bed and made my way stumbling to the kitchen, and reached for the cupboard's handle in the darkness. Feeling the chipped white paint on the old wood door, then finally the smooth cold metal. I retrieved a glass and shuffled over to the tap to fill it with water. Listening to the crinkled buzz of the bubbling water, looking over my shoulder into the dark kitchen, I remember having the strangest sensation of being watched from every direction, as though the room's interior itself was coated with thousands of invisible eyes. I shivered and slammed the tap off, carrying myself quickly now as I traversed the hall back to my room, where I shut the door behind me. I felt satisfied with the cold water as I drank and placed the empty glass on my nightstand and stood there for a moment, thinking about getting back into bed. But again, I couldn't make myself, not just yet. I searched the surface of my nightstand for my phone to check the time. 4:09 a.m. It's June, so I expected if I looked outside I might see a thin trace of light in the sky, a golden glow promising a swift delivery of morning's arrival. I shuffled once more to the other side of my bedroom to peel back the curtain and looked out into the humid suburban street, where, in the sky, nothing was apparent but more darkness. I focused down and swept the street with my eyes, right to left. My little car was sitting softly in my gravel driveway among the dry but pleasant-looking weeds that I consistently neglect to uproot, ashen green in the failing streetlight. The streetlight's hums cloak all other noise. Everything is so still. My neighbors' houses, the road, all looked... What the fuck is that? I can remember exclaiming, slinking down to better hide myself as something caught my eye. Under the streetlight, directly perpendicular to my window and across the street, stood a human figure. Thinking it at first to be one of my neighbors, I struggled to get a better look.
But it was impossible. As I shifted my eyes back from the curb of my front yard to the figure, my eyes' lenses relaxed, and I could not make them focus.
As though my human eyes were never meant to look at it. It remained a distorted, gray-black humanoid mass in my peripheral vision, and nothing more than a smear when I looked at it dead on, as though it had no business being in reality, let alone my ocular narrative. And, as this hopeless task continued, I felt dread build in my chest, realizing the figure was aware of me. In fact, it was facing me directly, and never moving. In fear and confusion, I allowed the curtain to fall back over the window and jumped into bed, unsure of what to do. I lay under the covers, shaking. My eyes darted around, focusing on things in my room in various shapes in the darkness, as if to prove to themselves that they were still functional. All I could do was brace myself, waiting hopelessly for it to come inside, but... in under 2 hours, the daylight began to flood in through my curtain, and my fears somewhat subsided. I got to the plant in time for my 7 a.m. shift. I worked a little slower than usual, being careful not to let the quality of my work be affected by my fatigue or the residual cortisol in my system. I was still more than fast enough to keep up, however. The work was soothing in a way, and when I finished my shift at 4 p.m., and got into my little car, everything felt all right again, as though the whole ordeal had been only a nightmare. In the back seat of my car, I noticed a birthday present I had picked out for my niece, Ellie, and I pulled out of the lot. Shit, that's right. I'd promised my brother that his daughter's uncle would be there by 6. I raced along the ring roads, stopping for 20 minutes to grab something to eat, and made it there 10 minutes early. I was greeted by warm hellos at the door. My sister-in-law seemed to notice that I am not my usual self when we were chatting just now. Little Ellie has gone to bed, having had a good first day of her 8th year. My sister-in-law won't leave it alone, and it's becoming a tedious intervention. A guessing game about just what the fuck might be wrong with me. I go to get a second piece of cake. Maybe stuffing my face will make me seem more normal. All I would gain is sympathy for what would shortly come to be perceived as extreme exhaustion or mental illness. They wish me a safe trip home, clearly skeptical about my capacity to carry out that action, and my brother gives me a hug. He never does that. They shut the door behind them and wave me out the window to let me know they are still with me. I appreciate the gesture, but all this long day I haven't been able to shake the feeling that that thing ran through my body like a current. In this darkness, walking to my car, I'm just a sitting duck, and it feels as though my brother watches sadistically from his comfortable window vantage. There's a dreadful prickling in the night air, and I check the back seat, look around, and get in the driver's seat. I waste no action and move with purpose. The nightfall brings with it that same feeling of being hunted by a presence that already has me surrounded. I drive steadily home, knowing the situation won't get any better. Approaching my driveway, I stare at the vacant space under the streetlight where the figure had stood. I fumble with my keys, then the lock, before managing to get my front door open. I loathe exposing my back to the street. I can always feel the eyes of the darkness itself scraping across me, overanalyzing my actions and thoughts until every idea has gone stale. I can think of nothing to do but get into bed. Exhaustion has bested my hygiene. Hours go by as I stare at my ceiling, a single drum pounding in my head. Why did I come back? I always knew it would be coming back. Wait, how do I know it's coming back, and why am I here to meet with it? I have this information in my brain, visions of the future in my head no earthly thing inspired, unlearned, scattered whispers of dread beguiling my actions without my consent. I am already prey, a victim of the presence, and it's here now. I stand smiling as the ghostly air flows cool around me. I walk to my window, which I have left open intentionally, and there it is. I ruin my eyes to smile at its vacuous face, to welcome it into my heart. There is a prickling running all through my body. I need to get closer to it, to better understand it, to see it as it was meant to be seen. I run out of my room, through the halls of my house and out into the yard, running boldly toward the figure with mixed feelings, to attack and embrace it. But as I get near, it becomes harder and harder to see. I make contact. I am utterly blind, but I feel the presence as a burst of static irradiating my skin. Then, nothing. My eyes see nothing but colorful shapes of my mind's design, dancing on blackness. I am beginning to panic now, as the only human part of me left was sure I would lose consciousness on impact. The glow of reality comes back to me, slowly, and I look around, standing alone in the street. Where did it go? A black hole in the shape of a man stands in my room, his vacuous face staring out at me. I look down at my transparent arms and fade to become an incomplete form, a glitch on the plane of existence.